Welcome to Straight from the Source with Haley Watts. Our guest today is Chuck Reynolds, Oroville City Council member for District C. Welcome.
Thank you.
So this is your second time now on City Council. I mean, the first time wasn't enough fun for you?
You know, parts of it were very fun.
Yeah.
But it was also a lot of work. We were starting at less than zero. We had to dig out of a very big hole.
Okay, tell me more about that.
Well, I was approached by some friends who are legislators who said that they needed somebody strong at the council level for Oroville. If you remember, in 2018, they were trying to bring in the marijuana seed to sell in Oroville. And it wasn't, they portrayed them to be little mom and pop shops where you go in and
like cannabis dispensaries.
Yes, exactly. But that's not what they were trying to bring to Oroville. They were trying to bring a seed to sale, which means everything from growing it to processing the edibles, everything. They were trying to use the old Louisiana Pacific lumber mill. The whole thing was going to be a drug factory.
Who's they?
The proponents for
Okay.
marijuana, and there was 5 council members on the city council that we called the MJ5, and I was asked by some friends to think about getting involved, and I told them I wasn't interested, and they said, well, do you really know what's going on in your own town? And it really made me think, how much do we really know? Because if we're not involved, a lot of times as regular citizens are just thinking, well, somebody's taking care of things. Well, in paying attention and getting involved, they were taking care of things, but not in the manner in which we would necessarily want it to be taken care of.
Okay, so basically this recreational marijuana and the dispensaries and more to it than that, right? Keeping that from happening in the community, that's what inspired you in the beginning to get into public service?
Well, I just thought that it was wrong that our leadership would, and I asked him this at a council meeting when I got up and spoke as a citizen. I said, you are looking for ways to create revenue for the city, and selling drugs is the best idea that you came up with. And they said, do you have some sort of magic wand that you could fix it? And, you know, actually I didn't, but I just knew there had to be a better idea.
Yeah.
Why would we teach our children that if you get behind in your bills, it's okay to sell drugs?
Yeah.
I just didn't believe in that. And I thought that leadership should be a better example. So, and there was just enough country boy in me to say, oh, I didn't know you wanted to fight. Okay. So I said, well, we are coming for those seats, meaning the council seats. Mm-hmm. And the one council member, she said, who are we? I have no idea, but I know that if I feel this strongly about it, I know there are others who feel like me.
Yeah.
And it was true. There was a lot of people, in fact, a majority.
Right.
They didn't want it, but they didn't know what to do. So somebody has to represent, somebody has to lead. And I was willing to do it at that point because their arrogance was so blatant that it was disappointing.
So you won that battle.
Did by 66%.
Right. And then in terms of, when you say by 66%, do you mean being elected, or do you mean
Yes.
putting a stop to the marijuana?
Yes. Well, they were pushing it through, this MJ5,
Mm-hmm.
these 5 council members.
The MJ, I never have heard all this terminology.
Oh, really? Oh, it was
a lot going on in Oroville.
A lot going on, and so they pushed it through, and they got it approved their last meeting of the year of 2018. Mm-hmm. And when I came in, Bill Agrone was our chief of police, but I had to appoint him as city administrator because these council members would not vote for him to be city administrator. And so reading through the charter, I found out how to get over those stalemates where the framers
Okay.
that put the charter together allowed for escape routes for councils that would hold the people hostage, if you will. And so Bill had asked me, do you want to wait a couple of meetings before you retract the marijuana? I said, I don't want to wait a couple of minutes. Put it first on the agenda.
Mm-hmm.
So we did, and we canceled that. Their last meeting in 2018 and my very first meeting, which was in January of 2019, we canceled the marijuana.
Was this something that ever could have just been put to the voters, like in an election?
Well, yeah, yes, but understand that voting, even my poor mother ended up voting for it because the way they word things on the ballot, they tricked the voters. And you had to vote no on this or you had to vote, you had to vote no to approve it and yes to not approve it. And it was
Right.
very confusing.
Yeah.
And I remember having the conversation with my mother. She said, well, I don't want it, so I'm voting no. But Mom, you have to vote yes to say no. And she wasn't convinced.
Yeah.
So they tricked the voters. And what the question was on the ballot, it wasn't necessarily, do you want this in your town? What it was, if they approve it, do you want to tax it? Well, of course, if we're going to be forced to have it, then
You want to make money off of it. Right.
Yeah, you have to create revenue for the city.
Right, right.
And
And that's been the argument from the beginning, right? Because California went to legalize recreational marijuana. And the argument was that, well, hey, people are doing it anyways. They're buying it from drug dealers illegally. We might as well make money off of it.
yes, that was their selling point.
Yeah. What do you think about, the war on drugs in general? And, prohibition even, alcohol being legal, right? There's no actual value to society except for recreational use. People get drunk, get in car accidents. Are you against all drugs, including alcohol?
But
or?
understand that replace the product. The product's irrelevant. It could be widgets, right?
Okay.
There's money attached to it.
Yeah.
So anytime there's money attached to it, then there's going to be strong proponents for
Right,
it.
right.
Okay. So am I against all drugs? I was young. I partied like most everybody in the 80s.
Yeah.
But I remember hiding when we did it. So we were hiding because we knew it was wrong.
Right.
So why are we evangelizing it now?
Yeah.
What has changed to where it's okay to teach
Yeah.
our kids? And the medical proponent of it, I agree. I've had some family members that had cancer, and it helped them quite a bit as far as having an appetite and pain and things
Yeah.
like that. But that's less than 1% of the people. It's not the high percentage that they try and
Right.
make it out to be.
And these shops would be for recreational, not for
Right.
medical.
Well,
Yeah, I know. I always go back and forth on these things because I like to say, hey, I'm a proponent of freedom, right? As long as you're not infringing on somebody else's rights,
Sure.
free to do whatever. But
Sure.
when it comes to drugs and even alcohol, it's difficult to say, well, once you get behind the wheel, then you're infringing on somebody else's rights, right? And if you're drunk or high, can you make the decision
Right.
to not do the thing that infringes on someone else's rights?
Well, that's why I quit drinking and partying, was because honestly I wanted to be married and I wanted to have children, and I knew that when I did it, it affected my decision making.
Yeah.
And I just didn't want to take the chance of affecting my decisions to where I might make the wrong decision for
Yeah.
my family. And so I just left that lifestyle behind. And then, because honestly, being a good father and being a good husband is really important to me.
Yeah.
And I just didn't want to have something clouding my judgment to where I would have to be apologizing for bad decisions.
What was it that inspired that change? Was it falling in love and deciding you want to be a dad, or was there some moment in your life?
Well, honestly, it was just growing up.
Yeah.
You know, there's seasons in life, right? You're young and you're single and you're making decisions of a young and single person.
Yeah.
So, but anybody who's healthy they grow in their life, right?
Right.
And you know, just like you could see kids that go to college, typically their behavior changes quite a bit when they get out of college.
Right, right.
But they're pretty wild and experimental during these years, right? So it was just growing up and reaching a different season in my life where I wanted to have a wife and children.
Okay. Well, moving back to the problem, the money issue at Oroville, with the city of Oroville that, you know, had people pitching, hey, maybe revenue off cannabis tax. I know that's just one idea. And ever since I've been here, which was 2016, it seems like, how do we get more money for Oroville? That's been a predominant question. Where do things stand right now?
Well, I will tell you, when I came in, me and Eric Smith came in, we were elected at the same time. And remember, there was Scott Thompson and Linda Dahlmeyer who were absolutely trying to do the right thing for Oroville, but they had 5 council members that were trying to go down this road. And I tried to explain to these 5 council members who didn't really know anything about this lifestyle or anything. You think that it's like what you see on TV. You think that you can control these things. Well, you're absolutely wrong. It's like being submerged in a submarine and being curious as to what's outside and opening the door a little bit to see. Then you try and get that door shut again. It's nearly impossible.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it is impossible for some people. They never get out of that. So these people didn't, they didn't realize excuse me, they were dabbling with something that they didn't have any idea what they were getting into. But Linda Dahlmeyer and Scott Thompson were absolutely genuine trying to do the right thing. But there was only 2 of them. So that's why we came in and we ran. So we would, it wasn't a voting block or anything like that. It was just people who were family-oriented and community-oriented. Not, honestly, when you have retired folks and retired folks from government on these councils, they have a different mindset than private enterprise people, and they just think of things differently. Like in a forum one time, they asked the question, Mr. Reynolds, you're a businessman. Would you run the council like a business if you were elected? I said, absolutely. Well, 2 guys who had been on the council for nearly 20 years said, you can't run the council like a business. It just don't work. And I said, well, I'll tell you what. I know what doesn't work. Whatever you've been doing for 20 years, because you put the city $25 million in debt and they're getting ready to file bankruptcy. So that's where it was at when we came in. So when we came in, they were over $25 million in old debt. Walking in City Hall was very disappointing. I mean, you had the front desk, the front counter, but as soon as you got back behind the doors, the rooms were full of storage and it just looked like there was not much activity, and honestly, there wasn't. So how do you, with no experience, how do you take this municipality and put it back on its feet and bring it out of the hole? At the same time, we were very fortunate that Measure U was approved, but that wasn't the end-all, save-all. That we thought it was going to bring in...
As a sales tax.
Yes,
Yeah.
1% sales tax. We thought that it was going to bring in $3.5 million, and it brought in $7 million. But understand, when I came in, the city budget was around $13 million, and now it's around $32 million.
Inflation? I mean,
Well,
salaries going up, or have you expanded services?
Honestly, with a government mindset, and that's why I said retired government people, they have this mindset of we need to spend all of the money and be broke on June 30th so we can be flush on July 1st, the fiscal year, right? Because they want to justify getting funded for all
like
these
we need
programs.
this, see, because we're spending it. And if you don't spend it,
Yes.
somebody, the state or grants might say, hey, you don't need it.
Exactly. And
But you
honestly,
don't-
we didn't need that much
Okay,
money.
okay.
And there was a lot of things. You see there's a city logo that came out. The city paid $80,000 for that. Do you realize
I
that?
did
already?
see that.
You could go on the computer and generate 50, 60 logos just like it with different variations for nothing.
Right, like ask Grok to make you a logo.
Yes.
I won't throw an opinion out there because I don't know what went into the $85,000, but that does seem like a lot of money for a
Yes.
logo. Okay, so a couple of things I wanted to ask you about. You talked about, say, Linda Dahlmeyer and Scott Thompson, you know, having the best interest of the city. Now, for the other people out there, do you feel like their approach was wrong or their intentions were not good?
I think, honestly, I think that there were things going on that the rest of us were not aware of.
Being on the council for the second time now, so you're not new to politics, do you think that it's easy for corruption to happen? Do you think even, you know, in small cities, just like Oroville, like it's easy for people to be tempted and to make self-serving choices?
Yes, I do. Absolutely. And especially people that have never been in charge of anything, especially a lot of money, what they consider to be a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what I said about the marijuana, because this MJ5 was trying to convince me that there was money involved. We can make money here. And I said, we can? How much? And they said, could be 100,000. I said, well, that don't seem like a lot. Maybe 200. And then they got up to 3, and I said, well, let me save you some time. So if we have something that we know is wrong, and the reason why we know it's wrong is because when we all did it when we were younger, we all hid, right? So we know it's wrong. And we put it on the table. How high do we have to stack the money next to it for it to turn into something right? I don't think you can ever stack the money high enough for me because I'm not for sale.
And you feel like that, you know, that represents the majority of your constituents and that's what you were fighting for?
I do. It's one of those things, either you are or you aren't. I don't want to be inappropriate, but I used to watch a comedy show when I was a teenager, and his name was Benny Hill. Very funny guy. And he asked this lady one time on one of his skits, hey, would you be with me for $1 million? And she said, you bet. Who wouldn't? Well, would you be with me for $10? And she said, absolutely not. What do you think I am? He said, well, we've already established what you are. Now we just need to negotiate your price. So you see what I mean? Either you are or you aren't.
Right. Well, but arguably, though, some people would say, because you're using the terminology like wrong, right? But in my humble opinion, that some could argue that it's not necessarily wrong because if the state sanctioned it, and you know, it's just a hey, like you hide when you're a child because you're told by your parents or the police something's wrong, but if it's not illegal in the state anymore, is it still wrong? Like, whose standard of right and wrong are we using? And does this speak for the whole community?
Well, I'm going to tell you what people, the word that people tried to use with me to convince me, another word that they used, they tried to tell me that it was normal now. It's normal. And I said, I think you're mistaking the word normal with common.
Yeah.
Because although it's very common, it doesn't necessarily mean it's normal. And I'm not against people. I'm not against drinking. People want to drink, go drink, go.
Yeah.
You know, do whatever.
See, they seem
it
the
don't
same
bother
to me. They seem the same to me.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me. But don't come downtown and put a big neon sign up and tell my kids and your kids and everyone's kids that it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
because we know, I mean, even you can go to other countries, there's opium dens and everything else, and,
Right.
and they're very common.
Yeah.
But that don't mean that,
Yeah.
that they're right.
It is interesting how, yeah, society decides to, like you said, normalize something,
Yeah.
and then just over time people get into acceptance, and it's really just a cultural thing. Like, what do we
Yes.
accept as okay?
Right.
So, okay, well, moving on to, what's currently going on with the city. You mentioned Bill LaGrone earlier, and I wanted to ask you about that, because he went from being somebody who wore, like, at least 3 different hats. Was he fire chief, police chief, and city administrator?
Well,
right?
what he was safety director, which was back years before I got there. The city was trying to save money, so they combined the two.
Right.
But even a layman like me could see that
That's a lot of jobs.
fire and police have 2 very different disciplines.
Yeah.
You can't have a police officer run the fire department. You can't have a fire chief run the police department. They're very different disciplines and different mindsets. Although they're both first responders,
Right.
the way they approach their job is completely different.
And he was a police chief. That was his.
He
first.
was. I don't know if he was chief before they made the safety.
But he has law
director.
enforcement background.
Oh yeah,
Not
he
a
was,
fire background.
He was law enforcement
Right.
for quite a while.
Yeah.
He worked his way up
Right.
from entry level.
So, can you tell me what happened at the very end with not renewing his contract, essentially? Like, this person who's so valuable to the community that he could fill multiple roles, and then to have no roles suddenly. And there was never really a reason publicly for why that was.
I wasn't there when they didn't renew his police contract, but when I left as mayor, he asked me if he could go back to the police department, because that was, and the only reason why he stepped in as city administrator is because we didn't have anybody, and he had a heart for the city.
Yeah.
He was trying to help.
Yeah.
And what you had was, you had Bill, who had never been a city administrator, me, who had never been in public office. I'd never been a mayor before, and we had no money, and we were trying to figure out, and we were the 2 guys in charge of this city, and neither one of us had done our job before.
Right.
So we were trying to learn every day.
Yeah.
And I think we did a pretty good job. We did a lot of good things.
Right.
Yeah, Bill is a very sharp guy, and he's very, there's not a lazy bone in his body.
Yeah.
He's very good.
Right. Okay. But
At what he does.
And so and again, but you weren't there on the council, so you don't know and couldn't say why he's no longer working for the city, right?
I don't know if it was, and understand that when you get to the top level, say police chief or fire chief or mayor, it's very different than being at a lower position. You are the biggest target. And if you want at least 50% of the people to not like you automatically, just get elected to something.
Yeah.
So honestly, it wears on you, because it's not just about doing your job. It's about 90% politics.
Yeah.
And being at that level, you've got to, you're taking calls from council members, and everyone wants to talk to the top person.
Yeah.
Because they figure they're going to get the best results. And which, in a lot of ways it's accurate, because it's, when you're in the top position, like the city, when people run down the city of Oroville or try to, I took it very personal when I was mayor, because as far as I felt, I was the city of Oroville. I represented them. That has my name on it. What can we do to make this better?
Okay. And still, as a representative of the city of Oroville, I mean, you have years ahead of you on council. What are some of the things that you're focusing on now, like goals, objectives? Do you have any items that you've put on future upcoming agendas that you're excited about?
Honestly, I'll tell you, I'm not the most popular guy in this group, so I just told somebody the other day, not my monkeys, not my circus. But although I'm doing my job, being a council member is nothing like being the mayor. Not even close. And I remember being the mayor, there's people that are there that are just constantly attacking, just because they don't even care what the subject is. They just know they're against you. And so it was, you dealt with, if you're a good mayor, you're dealing with everything you can every day. But being a council member, I don't get those calls.
Now, do you feel like that's just because, does the mayor really have so much more power, or is it really just hyper-focused from the community on you?
Well, I don't know if power's the right word for it, but it is, like if they have a function, they're more likely to invite the mayor than they are council members, because everybody wants the mayor there, but not necessarily council members.
Right.
So I don't know about power, but you certainly have a bigger spotlight on you.
Right.
And the mayor has to sign everything. The mayor's the only one who can sign contracts,
Right.
But it takes 7 council members to arrive at something for the mayor to sign.
Right. And I mean, you are the voice of District C, right? And so, I mean, when you said the expression, not my monkeys, not my circus, but it is your circus because, right? Because the people, I mean, I'm sure they come to you with problems, or you know what's going on in your
Actually,
community,
I've
right?
got to tell you, my district is pretty, they're pretty together. I don't have a real,
Yeah.
it's the neighborhood where I live. So,
Yeah.
so people are pretty, I'll just say that their lives are together.
So if there's nothing right now that needs to be done within your district at least, why run this time? What motivated you? Because that's a lot of hours to put into those meetings and to be a part of something if there's nothing driving you.
Well, but when you have a heart to serve, you serve, right? It doesn't matter to me. I've owned my own business for decades, and I've always been either the owners. My dad owned his own businesses. My family's entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
We typically, if we're involved in a business, we typically own it.
Yeah.
And I'm the first one to grab a broom, but I'm also the one with the gavel in the board meeting.
Yeah.
So when you have and when you have a true servant's heart, you serve. It doesn't matter what the capacity is, you serve. But and you're not looking for credit or attention. What you're looking for is progress and for things to run smoothly and to fix things that could be broken. But if you are serving to get credit or attention, you're not actually serving, you're performing.
Yeah.
I don't perform, I serve.
Yeah. Okay.
So it doesn't matter to me what my role is.
So do you feel like you would run again? Do you feel like that you'll continue on?
We'll see what the public, what the reading of the public is, because honestly, like I said, when we came in, the city was over 25 million in debt. All the equipment was dilapidated, barely any staff, and we fixed all that. We put it all together. When I came in, worst financial condition they'd ever been in. By the time I left, they were in the best financial condition they'd ever been in.
Yeah.
And I think that new council members who didn't see it like it was before, how much work it took to pull it back from the edge. Because if a city goes bankrupt, the state takes over. Could you imagine the state taking over our city? I couldn't.
What are the cases that's happened?
I don't know. I don't have any examples of that. I just know what the law is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I know there have been some things done to sort of work around money problems, like having CAL FIRE essentially do fire services, right? I mean, City of Willows, didn't they have their police service, I believe, taken over by Glenn County Sheriff.
Yes.
And that's, I mean,
Yes.
Gridley or Biggs, one of them does that too. Oroville still has its own police department. Was that ever considered, not just having the sheriff's
Well,
office?
it was talked about, but not by anybody really who makes the decisions.
Yeah.
It was more talked about by the public.
Yeah,
Dusters trying to get people worked
Right.
up. And that's the only place I really heard it. It never was, I don't remember it being as any significant part of a conversation.
Yeah, never
with
on the agenda.
Anybody who makes the decisions.
gotcha.
Yeah,
Yeah, and you're happy with the way things are right now with police and fire?
I am.
Yeah,
Cal Fire was that was the way to go. Honestly, when I came in, I couldn't believe we still had the same amount of firefighters that Oroville Fire Department had when they had a 5,000 people population.
Mm-hmm.
That is not growing. If you're
Yeah.
not growing, you're failing. And we needed to. And honestly, I think there was 13 or 14 positions, and we were having a hard time getting people to fill overtime positions. All of these things.
Yeah.
And Cal Fire was filling in. There's a mutual aid agreement, you know, and it's funny because the guys that have been around Oroville for a long time said, well, they have to do it. Well, that's true. That's the law. They have to show up, but they don't have to do it for free.
yeah,
Yeah, they could bill us every time, and we'd never be able to afford that.
Right.
It's just with the good relationship that we have with them of why they don't charge us.
yeah,
So they could bankrupt us like that. So I asked them to please fill out a bill and show my colleagues what reality looks like.
yeah,
And just one small fire that they responded to, the bill was $55,000.
yeah,
Yeah, it wasn't. I mean, can you imagine getting 3 or 4 of those a week?
no, right,
Yeah.
yeah,
And they were doing it, you know, just because they wanted a good relationship. But I'm telling you, and there was a lot of, you know, the hometown boy deal with the fire department and everything. And honestly, that was a myth. That was people that were, what it was. Now, back in the day, back a long time ago, all the firefighters were from Oroville. And they were from families that had been around Oroville all their lives, maybe for generations. And they all played softball together, and they all hung out together, and they all functioned as a big family.
Right.
But those days had long been gone. When I came in, I couldn't understand what they were talking about with the hometown boys. We only had 2 guys that lived in Oroville, and all the other ones lived in Grass Valley and Willows and
Yeah.
Corning, and they drove in to go to work.
yeah.
And so it really wasn't as it was being portrayed.
Right. Interesting. I've heard that terminology used before in government, like the boys club, and you know, it's you got to be a member of this group to get in and to make decisions.
Good old boys.
The good old
yeah.
boys clubs, yeah, whatever. But
I still
in
don't know
terms
who
of-
those guys are.
in terms of like fire or police, when you're talking about the people out on the front lines risking their lives, you wouldn't think that living in the community that you're protecting and serving would be a problem. It just makes sense to me.
Well, but honestly, Haley, it's like anything else, like sports or anything else. It's not about the performance. It's not about playing the game anymore, is it? It's business. It's a business deal. How much do I get? And unfortunately, even our first responders have reps that negotiate for
Yeah.
them, and you know, they actually snipe members from other departments.
Right.
And you know, I couldn't believe that when I came in and that was going on. I was like, what's
Right.
going on? Why are
Right.
these guys taking our people?
Yeah.
And then I found out that was just the way it worked, and
Yeah.
it was.
I mean, it's tough. Everybody wants to. People care about their place of work, right? They care about their work community, but I think we all put family first. And unfortunately, money is the way that we provide for our families, right? And so if a job's going to pay me more, and that means maybe I can send my son to college, or we can help him get that first car, or put food on the table, I understand why people would choose a higher salary or advocate for more money to a certain extent.
So I'll tell you something. On social media, I had seen that some of the people that had worked there had put that the city of Oroville paid them so little that they might have to sign up for food stamps. And
I feel like I remember that too.
I was offended by that because
Yeah.
I knew what they make. And it's kind of like teachers, they make a lot of money and they cry poor mouth.
Yeah.
And I'm probably going to get some bad press for that, but the reality of it is I'm involved with the people on the boards and things, and
Yeah.
I know what they make. And but these firefighters had said that they might have to sign up for food stamps because they couldn't. The city of Oroville wouldn't pay them. So I came down to the fire department and I said, "Hey, I seen your posts," and they were snickering, laughing.
Yeah.
I said, "It's pretty cute. Do you know what I have here?" And they said, "No." W-2s from last year. You, 142,000. You, 144,000. You, 147,000. Now, this is working 2 days a week in a community where the median income is $22,000.
Yeah.
And you're working 2 days a week. Other people are working 5 to 6, and you're making 7 times the amount that they make. And you want to go on social media and say that you're not being paid enough, clowning people that actually need food stamps? Well, I'll tell you what, these are a matter of public record. You want to post things like that, I can post these.
Yeah.
So that's what settled that down.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people didn't like it when I was willing to play hardball. There was tools or avenues in place that they had used for decades to settle somebody down, just like the CAL FIRE agreement. When we found out that the firefighters did not want to negotiate with us, when I came in, the city was broke, right?
Yeah.
Police department was all for taking a 10% cut in their pay for 6 months, and then I said at the end of 6 months, we'll give you the 10% back plus 3% raise, and we'll restore all of your discount that you gave us.
Yeah.
And they said, wow. Well, the firefighters didn't want to do that. So I asked Bill Lagrone, so what do we do? And he said, well, we've entertained a labor contract with CAL FIRE before. What's that look like? And I said, is it a good deal? Yeah, it's a good deal. How come nobody's done it? Because of all the public pressure that they get. They get to a certain point. So I asked Bill to set up a meeting with the chief of CAL FIRE. He did. It was David Hawks at the time, and he came in and he said, I don't know if I want to do a proposal for the city of Oroville because we've done it 4 or 5 times, and it costs us about $1 million every time to put it together.
Wow.
And then the city of Oroville always backs out.
Yeah.
And I said, have you ever dealt with me before? And he said, no. Okay. Because if you bring me a good deal for the city, I
Yeah.
won't back out.
Yeah.
I won't back down. I said, but what I want is I've got 14 fire employees down there. Can you guarantee me that you'll hire all of them if I go with you? And he said, I don't know. You got a couple guys that are pretty good, but I said, can you train them? He said, yes. Okay, so you'll hire them? Yes. Can you guarantee me that they will either transfer over at lateral or above? They won't lose a stripe and they won't lose $1 a pay? Yes. Okay. Can you guarantee me that the guys, the original crew from Oroville, can stay in Oroville if they want to? Because I'm getting backlash from people saying that as soon as they go with CAL FIRE, they'll transfer them out. Mm-hmm. Can you guarantee that they'll stay here? Absolutely. All right. Bring me a proposal that is good for the city of Oroville, and I won't back out or back down.
Yeah. So far, so good.
And that's what happened.
Yeah.
And we saved $1 million the first year. Yeah. So now there's a couple of people, old firemen actually, one old fireman that wants to say, well, if you add this and carry the 2 and subtract that, and then it's not such a good, well, yeah, but none of that happens. We're going by actuals now.
Yeah.
Now we have history, right? We have actuals. So we could show you where it's saving, and
Yeah.
the coverage is phenomenal.
Yeah.
When we have a fire, there's, I mean, it's just inundated with fire personnel.
Right.
Rather than trying to call people in for,
Yeah.
anyway.
Okay. I mean, yeah, sounds like that was a big success.
It was.
Tell me.
It is.
Oroville, that's been your home for how long now?
My family's been there since 1870.
Since 1870. Okay, so I take it this is where you raised your kids, and now your
Yes.
grandchild lives in
Yes.
Oroville as well.
Yes.
What is it about Oroville that you love so much?
Well, honestly, the recognition of community members, being able to go in the store and know half the people in there.
Yeah.
It's
I like that too.
nice to be able to socialize like that. I mean, most of my social activities in the grocery store.
Yeah. Do you feel like Oroville kind of gets a bad rap? Because I look at it and I see this charming downtown with so much history. I see the lake and the forebay and the afterbay, and I see all this recreation, and I feel like it doesn't get the credit, I guess. I don't know how to say that, but
Well, and honestly, Oroville's a county seat, which means that brings a lot of the social services offices there, which means that most people that utilize social services want to live close to them. And, say, let's compare to Chico. Chico has the college here, and they don't have they're not the county seat.
Yeah.
So they don't have all of that group of society wanting to be close to those services.
Right. Yeah.
And so anyway, Oroville had a bad stigma, and that was one of my major goals when I came in, was to remove the stigma.
Yeah.
I was so tired of hearing people say, well, that's just Oroville, what do you expect? Well, I'll tell you what I expect. I expect exemplary behavior.
Yeah.
I expect us to be a cut above the rest.
Yeah.
I expect us to be first class in our behavior and our performance. That's what I expect.
Yeah.
But that stigma was deep.
Yeah.
But I think we've gotten past it. I think that and honestly, I don't really agree with what's going on now. There's some groups that they're trying, whether they realize they're trying or not, whether they're doing it on purpose or not, I don't know, but they seem to be turning Oroville into a social services hub with all these rehabs. A lot of people coming to get rehab treatment, and the problem is they're coming from other areas and they're bringing them in, and then when they relapse, they hang around Oroville.
Yeah.
They don't go back home.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just don't believe, I believe that there should be treatment for people. I absolutely do. But I don't think that we should turn the whole town into a rehab
I
center.
hadn't heard about that. So these are private businesses
Yes.
coming in and
No,
offering
they
like
call
sober
themselves
livings and
nonprofits,
rehabs?
but there's actually
Got it.
quite a bit of profit going on when you're getting
Interesting.
$2 or $3 million a year in grants.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So there's a lot of money in rehabilitation.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Well, you had mentioned you have a daughter getting her master's, right? A son in special forces.
Yeah.
Do you think that they'll ever get into public service in terms of local government like you have?
I think that my son will.
Yeah.
My son is the one, when he was 16, he's the one that stood up at the town hall in Oroville for Doug LaMaffa and spoke up at the bad behavior of the adults in the room. And they did the same thing here at the town hall a couple weeks ago. I was there, and
I remember that.
I stood up and spoke.
Yeah.
Because even though it doesn't matter, people have they've gotten so engulfed in this identity politics that people forget that we're people, right? You're a person with a family and a job and all of these things. So am I. But they've just put that out there at the forefront that, well, who are you for? What do you and then all of a sudden. And this is I'm conservative, I am, and honestly, this is my observation. This is my observation through my own experience, about whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent. I think that conservatives think that Democrats are people with bad ideas. I think that Democrats think that Republicans are bad people with bad ideas. And there's a big difference.
Yeah.
We never used to know how each other felt about things. You know, even my wife, you know, a few years ago said, you know, well, my mom was a Democrat. I said, well, so were my parents. They were JFK Democrats. Big difference in a JFK Democrat and what has morphed into this squad now.
There's something, it's definitely disturbing to see what's going on in terms of the anger that's out there. And I always, I like to blame social media for a lot of it. I love social media because I like the cat videos and the cute animals doing things. Yeah, but like the way that it's being used to perpetuate so much anger is very scary.
Social media gives a platform for even the cowards that would never speak up face to face. They can hide in their basement and be a warrior, right?
Yeah.
Keyboard warrior. And that's sad.
Yeah.
Because then what it does is it just draws people more. Well, we had a president that won an election a few years ago and hid in his basement for 8 months. So, I mean, what are we doing?
Well, I mean, hopefully the new generation will learn how to navigate it better, and, you know, maybe we'll see some light at the end of this political tunnel.
Honestly, we do see things, when you're a little bit older, like me, you see things, they come around in a big cycle.
Yeah.
Just like the blue jeans and the
Sydney,
I don't know her last name. Sweeney.
I know what you're talking about.
Okay, those blue jeans were popular 30, 40 years ago, right? And then it was all these other things. Now the blue jeans are back, you know? So so for those of us
history repeats itself.
it certainly does, you know, but it can repeat itself in a negative manner too if we're not learning from it and paying attention.
Yeah.
We need to quit hiding the truth about history, and we need to teach it with a non-biased, non-objective perspective. We need to just teach what actually happened, good, bad, or indifferent.
Yeah.
If I made a mistake somewhere, let me know so I can correct it.
Yeah. It's a good attitude to have.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Chef Reynolds, I so appreciate you coming out. It was great talking to you. Thank you so much for
You
being
too.
here today.
Thank you so much, Haley.
Thanks for listening today. I decided to offer this podcast after enough of you let me know that you wanted a deeper dive into certain stories than you get on our TV broadcasts. We elect certain people to represent our voice, but who are they really? My hope is that this podcast answers that question. I love your feedback, and I want to know who you'd like to hear from next. Just fill out that comment section and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or Spotify.